Right, welcome again everyone to the servicing on a Toyota Hilux mk4 ELN165 model. This section is doing the oil filter change, which is accessed from the side of the front right wheel. That's the oil filter over there. Now sometimes these can be a bit of a bugger to get off, which is why it's important when you are putting the filters on that you only put them on hand tight. You don't wrench them on as tight as possible. I've checked this and it is just about loose enough to come off. Now you get a lot of, because the filter's horizontal, you do want to try and jam a load of tissue underneath here to try and catch as much waste oil coming out as possible, just to avoid making a mess. So I'll just put as much around there as we can. What we've done, we've already done the one oil change where we've put the flush oil in, and we ran the engine, or you drive it around for 5-10 miles or something just to circulate it and get rid of some of the gunk, and that was keeping the old filter in. And now what we're doing, we've drained the oil in the engine. It's important to drain the oil first before you take out the oil filter, because otherwise all the engine oil will come out from this hole over here. So the engine oil has all been flushed out. All that's left now is what's inside the filter. So we undo this, and as you undo it, you just want to try and get it vertical as quick as possible so that you can see the oil spilling out there. It's likely you are going to get a mess, which is why you want to have as much tissues under here as possible to try and catch most of this. It just saves oil getting on the road and causing accidents for motorbike riders especially, or even for car drivers. It's never a good idea. Plus it's good for the environment. So you can see it does trickle down in there. So what you want to do is get this surface over here as clean as you can, plus the thread area where the filter itself goes on, and mop up as best as you can any spills that have come off on the inside. So we'll just leave that there for a second. And down here again, it's always a good idea to just make sure, yes, it's the right filter, the right code, before putting it on, because oil filters are notorious for being jammed on, and sometimes if you can get a filter wrench on it to take it off, great. If not, an old trick is to stick a screwdriver in the side and use that as a lever to undo it. Now again, with the new ring, before we put it on, like we did for the fuel filter, you want to wet the ring here. Just get some fresh oil hanging around here. So again, it's not a bone dry O-ring that's getting put on, because that also helps in future when you're trying to take it off. If it's completely dry, then it almost kind of sticks on from the heat, and it makes it harder to get off. Now there's no point with this one trying to fill the filter with oil, because when you tip it sideways to put it onto the mounting, it's all going to pour out. So we've given this a clean as best as we can, just taking all the gunk off the side, and we're just going to just close one. Provided I manage to get it on right. There we go. So that goes on. I'll just wipe my hands a little bit so your hands get slippery when you've got been taking old oil off. So just wipe the surface of the filter clean so you can get a bit of a better grip on it. And again, just hand tight like that is fine. And get in there and get the little bits of oil spill that have come off. And that's that. This cover goes back on. And now once we've done that, this time round, like I said, this particular model takes 7 litres of oil, and this time we put the full 7 litres in because obviously the oil filter's got to be filled up as well. Now personally they say try and use as good an oil as you can because you're just doing your engine a favour. I tend to use a synthetic oil for the engine, and they're quite competitive nowadays. You can get them a good price. I get them in the UK from a company called OP Oils, OPIE, and they're very handy, very helpful guys to deal with, and hopefully they'll give me a discount off the next order. There we go. So this is the good stuff, if you like, instead of the flush oil we put in. And again, just to make sure that you need to put the sump plug back in so that the oil doesn't come spilling out the bottom, and the oil filter is in as well. I know it might sound daft and obvious to mention, but it's an easy mistake to make, and you don't want to be pouring fresh oil onto the ground, waste of money, and just pollutes everywhere. And it does help to have a slightly bigger funnel than the one I've got, so that it doesn't take as long to fill. And also Adam's shaking there because we're out in good old Scotland. Nice cold temperatures, and he hasn't got his long johns on, so. Right, there we go. So that's 2.5 litres from that container. Oh shit. There you go. I always seem to manage to make a mess in here when I'm doing an oil change, but that's half the fun, really. good way to get rid of old waste oil if you have a workshop or something, is to either get or make a waste oil burner, which just burns the old oil and keeps the workshop warm, or just take it down to your local recyclers and they'll recycle it and it comes back to life as something else. That's 7 litres of oil gone in now. This time put this back on. We keep this off when we're draining the oil because it helps the oil drain faster. And again, just hand tight and snug. And once the fresh oil has gone in, we just turn the engine on, leave it for about 30 seconds or so, then switch it off again, then check underneath the truck around the sump plug just to make sure there's no oil seeping out or leaking from around the sump plug, and then that's you. Then once it's sat for after you've turned on the engine, once it's sat for a little while, then you just check the level on the dipstick just to make sure you've got enough. It's always a good idea to put slightly less than the full amount, if you like, so that you can top it up. You can always top it, but it's more of a pain if you need to drain excess oil, because you need to take it out the bottom and it's messy and it's not worth it. Anyway, I hope the video is useful to you. If you like it, please press like and feel free to subscribe and add any comments. We'll also be doing some other videos in the future where we're changing the diff oil, the front diff, the back diff, and the transfer box and the gearbox. Thanks very much for watching.